What is up, everybody? Today I am joined by Nicole, the runner-up of Survivor LU Genesis. We're excited today just to dive into Nicole's game and just get an understanding of what she was thinking and maybe some things that we didn't get to see on our screens from Nicole. So Nicole, how are you doing? How's it feel to finally have the season out? Everyone has seen what's happened, all the response. What has it been like just to kind of watch throughout the season and see the fans kind of tune in?
Yeah, it's been so cool. I feel like I've gotten like a lot of closure watching it back, and it's also
Yeah.
just so interesting to see all the conversations that I didn't know about, just
Mm,
all of the behind the scenes workings, and just seeing like people's reactions to it has been so cool. Watching the episodes, like Derek did so good producing them and
yeah.
editing them. So it's just been really exciting to see like a good response from everyone, and I
Oh,
really
yeah.
enjoyed watching them all.
How does it feel that you are, without a doubt, a fan favorite? Like, not only did you get to see yourself on the screen, but people like absolutely loved you. They thought you were hilarious. They were rooting for you. Everyone thought you were like gonna win, take it home. Like, what was it? Is it weird to think like, wow, these like 1,000 people or so are like watching me and actually like me?
Yeah, that was so cool to see. It kind of made up for the fact that I didn't win. Is like at least people liked me. At least people agreed that they thought I played like a good enough game to possibly win. So
Yeah,
it was really flattering and so nice to like have people that supported me. So it was really cool and like
absolutely.
weird to watch.
Yeah, hey, people are probably out there making T-shirts with Nicole was robbed, robbed Queen and stuff. But hey, we can get right into it. Going very far back, year and a half ago plus, to just the initial strategy that you came into the game with. So you've been cast, and you are making preparations to begin. What were kind of some things that you were just running through in your head, some strategies that you wanted to implement as soon as the game started?
Yeah, my initial strategy was it was kind of similar to Derek from Big Brother, is I wanted to be someone that was under the radar, that was aligned with good players, but no one
Hmm.
really thought that I was making the move specifically. And
Yeah.
just like having conversations with people and bringing up people that I wanted out, but then kind of make them think that they wanted them out too. So that was like my initial going in.
Awesome. Yeah. So you said Derek from Big Brother. What kind of experience did you have with just like Survivor and other reality games coming into the game, and kind of what drew you to apply to Survivor LU?
Yeah, I'm kind of a more recent Survivor lover. I haven't watched all of the seasons all the way back. My first
Yeah.
season was like season 30, so junior year of high school.
Hmm.
My math teacher just started watching Survivor. She's like, "You guys need to watch it." So I started from there and I became
Yeah.
like obsessed with it. And then I started watching Big Brother. And yeah, I just kind of fell in love with them both. I love like games with a lot of strategy. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think that's exactly. I also was introduced to Survivor my junior year. I was like
really.
either junior or sophomore. I was like 16 and fell in love with it, like you said. So that's really cool. So the game begins. You're walking up the first day, a new experience for all of us. What were your first impressions as you began to meet your tribe mates, as you saw the production going on? Kind of what was just going through your head?
It was so weird. I remember first walking up and seeing cameras, and I was like, this is being filmed. Like, I had no idea. And it was just such a weird, random thing. Like, I just saw a poster and decided to apply. Even the
Yeah.
interview, when I went to the interview and I found out there were actual interviews in addition to an application, I was like, okay, this is different than what I thought it would be. But yeah, going up, everyone was like already split into the two tribes. So I
Yeah.
just went with the red shirts and started talking with everyone. And you could tell that everyone was just trying to be super bubbly and
Hmm.
social, which I was too. Um, and yeah, initially, I remember thinking that Dawson and Ellie, I had good first impressions from them
Hmm.
after we had the competition and went to the Raw. I kind of like pulled them aside and was like, if you guys want to talk alliances, let me know. So I think that they were
Yeah.
my initial go-tos, but everyone was super nice. And yeah.
That's awesome. So I remember back when those confessionals were coming out that first day. and that first week, really, we immediately were getting confessionals of Nicole looking for idols, trying to find an idol. What was it that just kind of made you see it like, hey, like I'm going all in, like first things first, like I'm not gonna take like ease into it. I'm going after it and trying to find an idol.
Yeah, it was probably fueled by a lot of excitement and also anxiety. I just love, I don't know, I want to like do stuff to progress me in the game, and knowing
Yeah.
that well, actually, we didn't even know idols were out there. Like, we didn't have any clues. No one even confirmed that they were there at that point. But I was like, they have to be out there. So I just wanted to start looking in the same way that like the first week, the fact that Tigress, we were like keeping things chill. We weren't really,
Hmm.
because we weren't going to tribal that week. I had so much anxiety about there not being a major alliance, because as we
Yeah.
saw with Gihan, like it only takes one conversation for you to not be included in for the whole game to change. And so
Hmm.
I was freaking out about that. I didn't want to be the first person to pull a lot of people aside, but I just couldn't handle not having something. So I actually pulled Garrett aside. And for the only time in the whole game, I pitched a final two to someone, which wasn't super real. We'll get to that. But yeah, Garrett just seemed like he seemed athletic, he seemed social, he seemed
Yeah.
like the type of person that if a major alliance was formed, he would be included.
Hmm.
So I at least after that like felt a little more calm and protected.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so let's talk about that, just the early beginnings and the early formations of alliances in the Tigris tribe. We saw you guys really take it slow in that first week. We saw you have a relationship with Nate very closely at the very beginning. What was that kind of just within those first 3 weeks before the tribe swap? What kind of conversations were you having that maybe we didn't get to see in the edited show?
Yeah, the first one was definitely Garrett, because he was the first person I met up with. Sadly, I was not the best judge with that one. I realized soon after, I was like, crap, Garrett does not know the game at all. Like, I totally misread that. He didn't know when tribal was. So that turned out to be a liability, because I was worried that he was going to tell people that I had pitched a final two or that we were working together. So we had like some conversations. And then I talked to Ellie. We talked for like an hour for a while. And then really soon, after we had watched the actual Survivor episode, we went down to Annie Ann's, and Nate told me, he was like, we need to talk. People have been saying your name. And I was like, oh crap, you have to be kidding me. Like, this game just started. How would anyone have any reason to vote me out yet? I haven't, like, nothing's happened. So I was freaking out. But that night, me, Dawson, and Nate met, which was
Hmm.
so much fun. Like, I feel like we all just clicked. We were having so much fun. We were talking about life, the game, and it became clear then that that was like an actual alliance. I
Hmm.
wanted to work closely with the two of them.
For sure. So in that third week, you have the individual challenge where both tribes are going to tribal council, and this is the week that you do find that idol. Uh, just talk about why did you return to the challenge, finding the clue, and then just the idol search that kind of went over 2 days.
Yeah, so having that big of a campus with no clues at all, I was going random everywhere across campus. Like,
Hmm.
I was trying to do that, but then I was also like, well, if we don't have any clues, like maybe one of the good spots would be if they just place them where we had prior competition. So I had been going to the old ones, and we had all like ate at North that night, and I was going back to my car. Everyone else was walking back together, so I was alone. I was
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm just gonna search this whole area. And after I'm searching through the trees, all of these places, like far from the area, I go right up to where it was, and there was something sitting on the ground. And I was like, what is this? And I didn't open it right then, but I was like, there's no way that this could be a clue. And walking back to my car, I actually saw Lauren, one of the other producers, and I was like, is this real? Are you guys messing with me? Like, what is this? And she's like, I don't know. You'll have to open it. So I get in my car and see that it's an actual clue. And I was still a little bit sketched out because I was like,
Yeah.
why would it be right there? But I just drove straight to where I knew it would be at the Eternal Flame. And I spent like probably 2 hours that night.
Hmm.
I was so like at the Eternal Flame, there's like the fountain and all these benches. And I was
Yeah.
in that immediate area searching so much. I was searching in the water. I was looking like in the cross. I was looking underneath. I was looking everywhere. There was like a couple like on a bench and I looked under them while they were there. I was looking everywhere. And then the next day I went back and I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be right at the flame. Let me try
Hmm.
to go out a little bit more. And soon after that is when I found that cool looking tree. And I was like,
Yeah.
this would be a good spot for an idol. And then I
Yeah.
saw rock stuffed in it. And then I found it and I was just so pumped.
And then you almost got attacked by a squirrel, and
Yeah, he must have known he was there. He was like coming up to me, like
I
doing
bet
that.
you, yeah, I bet you Sam hired that squirrel to come attack you. He was like,
He
I
sent it
cannot
to
let her
find the
find this
idol.
idol. He trained them all. That's awesome. Yeah. So, a blunder by your final two, Garrett. Of course, when he picked up that mat and didn't see the clue, uh, you got to cash in on that. So really, he did help you guys. Y'all had a really good mutual relationship where you were helping each other out. So we see the first idol of Survivor OU ever is found. So you'll always have that title by Nicole. And that week, your name had come up. You were um, really kind of in the middle of this, like Sam and Nicole, and then of course Nate, all the drama there as well. Did you think that you were going to need it to play it that week, or you were at that point where you kind of confident, like, I think I can get out of this with saving it?
Well, in the very beginning, I thought I would have to play
Hmm.
it. But it kind of went so once I found out that not Alexa, Megan, Sam, and MJ were saying my name, I was immediately like, this is not happening. I'm not going to be the person that someone brings up my name once and it just continuously keeps being brought up. And it's
Yeah.
so easy the first week because a lot of times there's no real reason to vote people out. So the fact
Yeah.
that my name had already come up, I was like, I'm screwed. So I wanted to turn the target on the people that were saying my name. So I immediately brought up to Nate and Dawson about how I had noticed that Megan was like pretending that she didn't know Survivor and was like
Yeah.
clearly a big fan, but was like playing it off. And so I really amped that up and I told that to Ellie. Like I really spread that around because I was like, they're saying my name. I'm going to make sure that
Hmm.
they're the target. And then it worked out with Sam because Garrett and I had found him looking for the idol. Multiple people had also found the same thing. And when he texted me in front of Nate and Dawson, I was like, this is perfect. So pretty quickly, I just spread those bits of information to everyone on Tigress, and people were surprisingly willing to flip and do Sam.
Yeah.
But it was still a real concern that Sam would have had an idol just because four different people had saw him on different locations looking for idols. And like I was looking too, but I guess he was just being too obvious about it and everyone
Yeah.
saw. And so it was a real concern like Sam could have an idol and I know that his vote is going on me.
Hmm.
And so it really worked out. Ellie and MJ were willing to put votes on Nate, which was really nice to know that not only did people not want to vote me out, but they also didn't even want me to be an option to be
Yeah.
voted out. So I was still scared with that because I was like, maybe Ellie and MJ are lying to me. So, but I just had to trust them. And once, they agreed to put the votes on Nate, I didn't think that I had to play my idol that week.
Yeah. So let's talk about that too. So your close ally, then Nate, got into some drama with Ellie and MJ and Megan, and there was a confrontation with nearly the whole tribe there. And come to find out, all those conversations were real. They were MJ and Megan were kind of covering it up. Did you know that they were covering it up and lying in the game, or was that kind of your first time realizing that after uh, from being able to watch it on the screen?
That was actually my first time realizing, because based off that conversation when they were defending themselves, they made it
Hmm.
sound, because I knew that they had met up, but they
Yeah.
made it sound like, oh, Sam pitched the name, we just like agreed along sort of thing. So I really didn't think that they were working closely together. And it was
Yeah.
so crazy that that whole situation came up because Nate had just barely mentioned Ellie's name, like, oh, maybe we'll do Ellie this week. And I was like, I have been talking about Sam, Megan, and MJ hardcore all week. And yet Nate mentions Ellie's name once, and it's this huge like
Hmm.
debate where everyone's there, a big confrontation. And to like see that he was right all along, it was just crazy that that whole situation happened. And then that really like dragged with him the rest of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Uh, he went from just not really on anyone's radar to a villain in less than a week.
Yeah.
But you still were able to get out of that week, both you and Nate, unscathed. So definitely kudos to you for being able to pull that off, really diverting that target, and like you said, making sure that not you weren't even considered or could have went home in the place of an idol. So the next part of the game that we go into is the tribe swap. So we really didn't get to see a lot of you and your tribe because you guys won immunity. But tell me your thoughts when you saw the breakdown of all three tribes, and then just what your week was like connecting with Ben, Ellie, and Nate.
Yeah, I felt good about the tribe that I was going on just because even if we had lost the competition, we were the only ones with three tigers. And I knew I
Yeah.
had a good relationship with Nate. And I knew, especially after last week, my relationship with Ellie could use some improvement because
Hmm.
I was clearly pushing for Sam to go. She was really pushing for Nate to go. So yeah, I wasn't sure how it would turn out for the other tribes being
Yeah.
split. But yeah, we started off just meeting at the Rot with Ben. We just wanted to find out what was going on Gihan.
Hmm.
And I just decided that, you know, he had received votes. He seemed like kind of in a vulnerable spot. He clearly wasn't on the top of that tribe, or he wouldn't have
Yeah.
been getting votes. And so I made sure to meet up with him separately, and we had kept meeting up. And I think it was a good relationship to have because I got a lot of information about Gihan, and I was also able to like spread things that I wanted to get through Gihan. And he did just seem like an honest person, and he
Yeah.
wasn't super um like he was strategic, but just like casual conversation, and we kind of just bounced off different targets, like we want this person out.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it was a really good week to establish that relationship with Ben and know that we didn't have to vote any of us out that week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we see that relationship really progress through almost the entire game, where you and Ben, and then Nate kind of loosely with that, have a really good relationship. You and Ben, Nate, and kind of Nathan and Liz kind of really kind of form a loosely alliance down the road, which saves you and Nate from going compared to Dawson and MJ. So even if it wasn't a very strong relationship, it was enough to get you guys through that. But then we go into the merge, and we have the infamous rock draw, the dramatic tribal council. So 5-5, split even. What were the in the episode? We see a lot of like what Gihan is doing, but what was Tigris trying to do to maybe prevent a rock draw? And then when did you kind of know, hey, this is it? We're not we're not flipping anyone. They're not flipping any of us.
Yeah, we are real in, I guess Nate and mine was Ben.
Yeah.
So I had been meeting up with him, and I just tried to pitch like, you clearly have been getting votes. Like I don't think you're at the top of your tribe. But the issue with that was in that conversation, Ben told me that Megan told Luke that Tigris was going to stick together and pick everyone off, which I told
Hmm.
him, like, no, that's not true. I was like, we might have
Yeah.
agreed to that because if someone brings that up, like, we're not going to say, hey, just so you know, Tigress, like after the merge, we're probably not going to work together. You know, like you're going to agree, let's stick together, that sort of thing. And so I tried to tell him that that wasn't true. And it seemed like he believed me, but he was more in on Gihan than I thought he was. And the good thing about Ben is like he wouldn't pitch all of these, he wouldn't say he was going to vote one way and vote the other. So he was really honest that week. And he's like, honestly, like I'll think about it, but at this point it seems like I'm going to stick with Gihan. Like I'd like to work together in later weeks, but I'm probably not going to flip. And I passed that information on along, and then we kind of got to the point where we knew that it was going to be 5-5, and so we were trying to figure out who to put our votes on. Luke was the number one target, like he needed to go first, and then we were thinking possibly Alexa. The issue with Luke was, I mean, he had done the idol plays, so we were like, we need to get him out, but we were worried that either he would have another idol or it would be clear that we were targeting him. And so if someone else had an idol, they would play it on him to keep the numbers.
For sure.
So we kind of decided with Nathan, because he didn't really seem like a huge threat. We wouldn't mind if he didn't draw the rock. So yeah, we kind of just decided on that one.
For sure, yeah. And yeah, we talked about that, me and Ben, in our conversation, the Megan comment that she told Luke. And it really is evident now that that was a curse on the Tigress tribe. That and kind of the dancing and stuff pre-merge really turned Gihan sour on a lot of Tigress. And we end up having, of course, all the lame gameplay comments. But they kind of did Megan's plan on you guys instead, which was definitely sucky, since not all of you subscribe to Megan's comment.
Yeah.
But the rock draw happens. Of course, you were vulnerable. You could have went home with that idol in your pocket. Were you ever considering using your idol during that rock draw, during that tribal?
Yeah, I definitely was either on myself or putting it on Nate.
Yeah.
But I kind of, that week, I decided my plan for my idol and the plan for the rest of the game, which was, so Alexa brought up in that tribal council that the biggest threats on Tigress were Dawson, Nate, and MJ. So I was like, cool, I'm not viewed as a threat. And I was thinking, I was like, why would I use my idol to keep this strong group of players together, like Dawson and MJ? I kind of accepted that point that I would want to turn on them and vote them out. So why use my idol that could keep myself safe, to keep these group of people together that I'm going to have to turn on eventually? I can, which we didn't know that Gihan was going to get the numbers. It could have gone either way.
Sure.
But
yeah.
If Gihan gets the numbers, that it kind of takes the blood off my hands, because we can vote Dawson out, we can vote MJ, possibly Nate out. And it can kind of seem like, oh, I had no, I couldn't help it, which definitely didn't work, because once people found out I had the idol, they were probably more annoyed in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was contemplating it, but I also was thinking it was a risk that I did pull the rock, but I was just thinking how good of a spot I could be in if I made it through that vote with an idol.
Yeah.
And yeah, also just playing an idol right then at the merge, it would have also made me more of a target, which I in that moment wasn't, which I liked. So I definitely was debating it a lot that week, but I decided ultimately to just see how it went. And if I made it through with my idol, then I would be in a really good spot to make it to the end.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think you made the right move there. Something I talked about in me and Ben's conversation was just risk. And there's certain times in the game he talked about I wasn't going to flip on Gihan because the risk involved was great, but the reward was much more. And I think you called that perfectly as well, where you said I could play this idol, but we saw in this season, just like any other Survivor season, where if you climax or you kind of get to your pinnacle too early, you're going to fall. We saw that with Luke. We saw that with Dawson. We even saw that with Ben, just barely. Ben kind of is a unique situation just because he of the Final Four challenge. And then with you and Nate, you and Nathan, we never saw that. We never saw you guys get to the climax too early. you guys hit it at the right point and were able to coast into the final three seats in a good position. So I agree. I think if you would have used that idol, you would have been bumped up, probably over MJ, probably over Nate even.
Mhm.
If Ellie stays, definitely over Ellie, and you could have been you and then Dawson or something like that. But I also talked about this with Nate and Ben. We talked about, hey, if this rock draw goes differently for the Tigris tribe, a Tigris person wins. And just like it went well for the Gihon tribe, and someone from their alliance won. So definitely a pinnacle of the game, and impressive that you were on the wrong side of that and still able to get to the final tribal. So definitely kudos to you on that one. But I would love to go now and just talk about just loosely the rest of the merge and kind of what was your game plan, kind of what relationships were you really pinpointing as, hey, these are important ones for me to get far, these are moves that I need to make to secure my spot in that final three.
Yeah, so once we lost the numbers, I at least thought about it. So I had somewhat of a plan. And that week, I just wanted to distance myself from all Tigers. So I
Yeah.
individually met up with Luke, Liz, Alexa, and I had already been doing that with Ben. And I just tried to seem really open. I wanted to make myself seem like the most desirable Tigress. Like, you can use me, keep
Yeah.
me in the game, because we really didn't know where the target was going to go that week. And if everyone thought, Nicole's not really closely aligned, she's not really doing much, then we
Hmm.
can keep her as a number.
Absolutely.
Um, but from talking to everyone, the only person that really I had like connected with was Ben. Alexa, you could tell she was just like trying to get information out of me.
Hmm.
Liz was kind of just like not actively wanting to work together, like, yeah, I don't know, kind of wishy-washy. And then Luke, all of our conversations were like, yeah, we won't work together this week, but like maybe later on, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really didn't get in with anyone else besides Ben, unfortunately. And so that changed because I planned on, them getting the numbers and then wanting to vote off maybe one or two people, like Dawson, MJ, and then let's switch things up. Like, we can go
Hmm.
after Luke, we can go after whoever. But that time really never came. And so I felt like besides having my idol, there wasn't much wiggle room, like much
Yeah.
to do. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think what you did so well is that maybe you weren't an ally, but you definitely weren't an enemy, and that might be all that you need in Survivor to get past really pivotal votes. Of course, Dawson and MJ and Nate were viewed as kind of enemies of the Gihon Alliance, but you weren't kind of viewed that way, which allowed you to really just continue to fight in that middle ground, make connections, and your name wasn't brought up. You weren't being targeted, which is exactly what you want in Survivor, but you were still able to make connections. And you had the underdog story, which
Mhm.
people like Liz and Alexa, they didn't have. They were in the majority almost the whole entire merge except for the first vote, which is always positive to be that underdog. So we go into the next huge part of the game, which is the Ben idol play. Just talk through what that was like, just the chaos of that tribal council, what you were thinking, what your desired outcome was, and like, of course, we see you vote out your ally Nate, but just walk through that tribal council.
Yeah, that was crazy. So going in, the plan was vote split between Ben and Alexa. People
Yeah.
acknowledged that Alexa was a threat. People acknowledged that Ben was a threat. So it was going to be me, Ben, and Nate on Alexa. And I called Liz beforehand just to like talk about it. And she had mentioned to me, she's like, I'm willing to go to Rocks for tonight's vote. And immediately I was like, what? Like, we're at final six. I don't want to do that. So I already go in like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So then Ben pulls out his idol and everything just goes crazy. So the funny thing is, earlier in the season, when Luke had pulled out his fake idol at the Freedom Tower, I remember
Yeah.
filming confessional and I was like, he was like kind of overcompensating to make it seem real. And I was like, in the same way that whenever someone pulls out an idol before a tribal, it's either not real or they're not going to play it. And in that case scenario, I fully thought it was real, but I wasn't sure that he was going to play it. And I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was real just because I didn't know that he knew what store the beads were at. And so I had an idol and I was like, okay, that looks just like it.
Just like it, yeah.
And his like story made sense. And it's also very like Ben to not just like pull that out, but to go on explaining for 20 minutes about how he outsmarted everyone, like just
Yeah.
everything lined up. He played it
Yeah.
perfectly. Everyone thought he was trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed it too because I wouldn't expect him to tell me he had the idol. So I was like, okay, he had an idol this whole game, kind of like I did. And now he's
Yeah.
anyway. So things just get crazy. And so Nate starts going around and he's like, we need to keep the votes the same. And so I start doing the same. And I'm like, if we keep 3 votes on Alexa, 3 votes on Ben, we already know that Alexa's a big threat just because of how well she can explain herself. And everyone knew that. So that was what the plan was supposed to be. But then, of course, Alexa is panicking and going around. So then all the votes get flipped onto Nate because Alexa convinces everyone. So I was like, this sucks because I was at the point in the game where I didn't really want to go the end with Nate, just because I thought that it would be better for my game to not go with the person I was most closely aligned with because I didn't want it to seem like he kind of dragged me to the end. And I thought it'd be better to be the last Tigress member instead of 2 of us making it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do the revote and everyone is getting really annoyed at me. They're like, who'd you vote for? Who'd you vote for? They were trying to force a tie so we would do a rock draw.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys missed your opportunity to get Ben. If you kept your votes on him, we could have gotten him out. I'm not going to draw rocks at final 6 because you messed this up. Even after I voted, when I came back, like Liz and Alexa were so annoyed at me. They were going to flip the vote to force the tie. So that was just such an annoying situation because I felt like it was clear that Alexa should have been the next person to go. And it was once again another week of Gihan refusing to turn on their own, even though some of them were bigger threats. So I was sad that Nate left, but I was expecting it at some point, and I was mainly just annoyed about how it all went down, and then that Ben was safe for another week.
Absolutely, yeah. Alexa played that great. She pulled off in a very intense situation. Of course, Ben, perfect lie, crafted it exceptionally. But that was a question I had for you: is if you considered using your idol on Nate, but it seems like that wasn't even kind of on your forecast to do.
Yeah, looking back, based off people's opinions of Nate, it seemed like that would have been the best bet. But from my perspective, I like you don't really know someone's game unless you're playing super closely with them. And with Nate, I felt like no one really knew how strategic he was because we had been working together since the beginning. So I knew that Nate was a huge threat. Other people didn't really think that. So 1, I was concerned with being able to beat him at the end. And then 2, like I said, I felt like he would be able to phrase things in a way that it would seem like I just followed along with his plans. I didn't do things on my own. So I was worried about that. And I just thought that it would be better to be the last remaining Tigress and have that as like an accomplishment than both of us making it there. So in the moment, I really didn't consider it. But I definitely should have because I didn't have any move with my idol, which sucks. But so no, I wasn't like thinking about that too much in the moment.
Definitely, I see what you're saying with Nate was playing strategically behind the scenes all game. The jury and a lot of people in the game had a very bad perception of him, where they didn't like him. But at the end, he definitely could have pitched his case well. But like you said, the idol play ended up not having much significance. So of course, I know a lot of people have talked about playing that there really makes you dragging Nate through. Like he can't say I brought Nicole to the end because he wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you. So that was definitely a pivotal moment in your game that it could have went either way and would have been absolutely crazy. But without a doubt, you brought yourself to the end because we see you in the Final Four challenge absolutely beasted out. You beat Ben, Nathan, and Liz. So talk about at that point, Ben is the biggest threat in the game. It's very obvious. Everyone knows it. He makes that split-second decision, lapse in concentration. His hand comes off. What was it like whenever you knew that, hey, the biggest threat is gone? What were you kind of thinking about your chances at that point?
So I had already started out super discouraged after that last tribal because it turned out Ben's idol was fake and he kept himself safe. And my idol was a failed play. So that sucked. And so going in, we all were thinking that the final three was going to be where you would bring the winner of the final competition would bring someone, and then the last two would kind of battle it out in a fire making or some sort of competition.
Yeah.
So going in, it was super discouraging because I was like, even if I win this, no matter who wins, it's going to be Ben against someone else, which with his competition history, I'm sure that he could build a fire. Like it just seemed, I really couldn't see a way that Ben would not make it to the end. And so once we found out that that wasn't the case, I was super hopeful. And I was like, Ben just has to drop and I have a chance. Everyone finally has a chance. So when he dropped, I was so happy. I felt bad, obviously, to some extent, but I was so happy because I felt like the clouds open, like I actually had a chance at this now. Because before I was kind of open to going to the end with Ben. I was kind of thinking like me, Ben, and Liz. But after that, that was no, like I'm not going to the end with Ben. So it was super relieving that he dropped.
For sure. So then he drops, but then you go, I don't know how much longer you guys went, but you end up pulling it out and winning. What was it like to know that, hey, like I brought myself to the end? The lone Tigers member left, really an underdog throughout the merge. Where I'm able to punch my own ticket. I don't need anyone else's help.
It was an amazing feeling. It felt so good just because every single week was also super discouraging because every week without fail, like Gihan was just picking off Tigris, unwilling to work with us. And so it was, you know, I was thinking, are they gonna want to go the end with me? Are they just gonna pick me off again? Because the perception also with how close Tigris was that they would just vote for the last Tigris. And so the fact that that wasn't up to chance, and also just winning a competition because I had been close in a few other ones. But this was like my type of competition, like stay long endurance, which isn't totally feasible for College Survivor just because we all have stuff to do. Like we can't every week be out doing like 3-4 hour competitions. But yeah, it was so exciting. I was so proud of myself, and I was glad that I had a competition under my belt and that it was probably one of the most important ones.
Undoubtedly. So going in, you've punched your ticket to the final tribal. Going in, kind of what was your thought process at just what did you think your odds were at being able to pull it out? You're sitting next to Nathan and Liz. How did you think you were stacking up compared to them?
I was actually really hopeful. I thought that I had a good chance. The only thing, I mean, so my perception of Nathan and Liz's game, well, Liz, I wasn't really concerned about, but Nathan, for me and like Tigris while we were in the game, it kind of just seemed like he was in the numbers and just kind of rode that to the end because he was also denying like working with us. And so I felt like I just felt like he didn't really do anything that was deserving of the win. But my only concern with that was he was the only person of all of Gihan that I had never had a conversation with. And so there was a lot of the unknown with what he had done and what Gihan thought about what he had done, because we just hadn't really talked. So that was worrisome. not knowing like where people stood with his game. But I thought that I had a really good chance. So I was hopeful going in, especially after Ben was knocked off.
For sure. So you're at final tribal council, the jury asking questions, and we start to see kind of that maybe Tigress isn't quite happy with the way that you used your idol. So of course, in the moment, you can't respond how you truly want. You got to be nice. But Nicole, I'm going to give you the chance now. What would you have said? Just kind of your rationale and your reasoning, maybe the blunt side of it that you couldn't communicate in a forum that you're supposed to be pleasable and not make the jury mad at you even more.
Yes, I love this. So basically, I think jury management is so stupid. One of my biggest pet peeves of Real Survivor Big Brother is just a bitter jury.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because it's a game. You turn on people, you do what you need to do to get to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of Tigers was acting like so Tiger strong, you should have kept Tigers together. But I think if any one of them thought that it was beneficial for their game, they would have done the same thing. I know
Oh,
Dawson
yeah.
was annoyed because I didn't keep Tigers together. Well, he wanted Tigers together because he was the biggest threat and would have had a clear shot to the end. And then Ellie and MJ were just so annoyed at me. And I'm like, this is the game. Like, I don't think that it's the final three's job to manage the jury. I think jury needs to manage themselves. Like, it's a game.
Okay,
You've been
yeah.
out for weeks, a month. Like, by the time you get to that tribal council, you can be like kind of salty. But
Mm-hmm.
the I don't know if it like totally changed like the votes, but just the fact that people were annoyed at me, I was like, that's
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any of them except maybe Nate ever doing that for you.
Yeah.
And if Tigress wins the rock draw, I have a feeling that it's a very good chance that we see a combination of Ellie, MJ, and Dawson really close to that final three, and you and Nate not so close. I would even go as far to say that Liz probably sits in the final four, along with maybe Nathan or someone like that. And you and Nate are gone 6, 7 around that area. So
Mhm.
I completely respect that. Hey, you wouldn't have done the same thing for me. So what did I owe you? And I think you played it perfectly, really, in that middle part of the game where you were distancing yourself from the kind of the bad juju of the Tigris tribe, and the perception of being with them, which saw really MJ and Dawson go. And you did a good job, like we talked about, of not being an enemy, but being able to float in that middle ground and make your way to the end, which was exactly what you needed to do. So all the jury questioning is done. Um, they go back to vote. Before the votes are read, what is your perception now of, hey, what are my odds?
I definitely didn't feel as confident because
Yeah.
just the vibe of the people I thought might vote me
Mm-hmm.
was they weren't even happy I was there.
Yeah.
Just based off questioning how everyone was like looking. So I definitely wasn't as hopeful. But I didn't know for sure that Nathan would get it. And I at least thought that I would maybe have more votes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wasn't sure, but I could tell that things were definitely off between people. Like no one was really happy I was there. So yeah.
And then you didn't remember Dawson's middle name. That
Oh my
really,
god. I retexted him when I saw it. And I still didn't know his middle name, but it's in the contact of my phone now, so I'll always remember. But I
you'll
do
never
not
forget
remember.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember that conversation at all. And we were actually like closely aligned. So
Yeah. That was hilarious. That was one of the best moments in Final Travel. I'm sorry that it didn't go your way and that you didn't remember it, but it was funny. But yeah, so we see, sadly, you lose 6-1 to 0. So you are the runner up, getting that vote from Nate. So season's over. We have like a little reunion party afterwards. Just talk about the experience as a whole of Survivor LU and just kind of what it has meant to you, to be able to be a part of it.
It has been great. It was so much fun. I've loved just connecting with people after the game. It's brought so many things. Like one of the first things I think about is during quarantine, we would do so many online games,
Hmm.
and that was just so much fun because I got to replay. Like Sam and I worked super closely one game. Luke and I kind of worked together. You and I were like beefing, but then we got to work together.
We
So
worked together. We did great.
yeah.
And you won. Everyone. Nicole won. And I voted for her in the end. And I pitched
Thank you.
so hard for you. You did
Thank
awesome.
you.
That was an awesome game.
That's my redemption. No,
Exactly.
but yeah, just like in a time where we weren't really hanging out with people or doing
Hmm.
any of that, it was such an highlight. And then just game nights and just different events. Like over the a few weeks ago, I went down to Liberty for a 1 day Survivor,
Yeah.
and it's just been so fun connecting back with people from this season, people from future seasons. And a lot of like some of my closest friends are from Survivor LU, even like not being at Liberty anymore. So
Yeah.
it's just been a great experience and so much better than I even was expecting when I just saw a random poster and was like, oh, this will be fun. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, Nicole, I think if we could, um, the story of Nicole's game is really someone who the whole entire game never quit, never stopped. You were going hard from that first week, trying to find idols to the very end, winning in the Final Four a challenge and pitching your case. You were an underdog for almost the entire game, but you were strategically maybe quiet, but strategically impactful, where you got what you needed to do done, and you were able to overcome a lot of adversity. And I honestly do believe that that final vote is not a testament to the strategic game comparison that you and Nathan played. I think you played awesome. Of course, as my winner pick at the very beginning of the season before we played, I was bummed to see you get that close, but you played an exceptional game. And at the moment, you are the queen of Survivor. So until season two comes and we find a new queen, you hold the throne. You have the
Yeah.
title, so that's something that you can hold on to as long as possible. But Nicole, thank you so much for talking to us today. Do you have anything else to tell to the fans before we head off?
Um, just thank you everyone who's watched. Like we really
Yeah.
had no idea how many people were gonna watch this, like live reality games, doing podcasts, just
Hmm.
everyone that has taken a chance on us and gone through the whole season.
Yeah.
It's been so cool and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you can check out Nicole on Live Reality Games coming up next week. She'll be talking to them on Sunday, I think. So on Sunday, make sure you check out that podcast with Live Reality Games and stay tuned. Hopefully, tomorrow you'll be seeing our podcast, Survivor LU's coverage, with the winner of Survivor Eugenesis, Nathan. So thanks so much again for tuning in all season, watching and cheering for Nicole. Definitely one of our fan favorites. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.